We have a very strange episode of Culture Shock today, folks. Very, very strange. Things are getting a little weird in the world today. Anyway, it is currently Tuesday, January 1st. I am Nathan of Washington, and you are watching Culture Shock, the only show on the internet that separates an issue of culture from an issue of politics. And this is the news, however bizarre it may be. Okay, folks, so we haven't really gotten into the really bizarre stuff yet, but we're going to start strong this year by talking how now a liberal university is now teaching social justice courses. Oh boy. It just never ends, does it? Liberal university offers social justice major to create civil unrest. A liberal university in Ohio is offering a social justice major to students in order to help them create civil unrest in America. Ohio Wesleyan University is offering the major to undergraduate students who want to learn the skills necessary to become activists. CampusReform.org reports, through this interdisciplinary major, students will develop the knowledge and skills to reflect critically on the meaning of social justice at both the local and global levels, examine the dynamics of societal conflicts and struggles for social justice within and among various groups and institutions, and apply interdisciplinary perspectives at multiple levels of analysis, states the description of the major. In addition to coursework, the major requires that each student does work outside of class, which includes an activism project. Students will be required to supplement their classwork with more experientially oriented activist project, and will be encouraged to further participate in a travel learning course, theory to practice grant, and other service projects, states the description. The university contends that these activism components of the major, which take place outside of the classroom, will give students the chance to build career-related skills, such as community organizing, working with and mediating diverse social groups, presenting ideas in professional forums, and managing real-world projects. Course requirements to obtain a social justice major include teaching for social justice and a choice between a variety of courses such as contemporary feminist theory, social inequality, feminist philosophy, and more. Contemporary feminist theory, for example, aims to study far-left versions of feminism, including Marxist feminism and socialist feminism. Often, U.S. contemporary feminist theory is characterized as a typology of theories, sometimes assumed to be distinct and separate from each other, that follows a linear chronology such as liberal feminism, Marxist feminism, socialist feminism, radical feminists, ecofeminism, queer feminism, post-colonial global feminism, postmodern, post-structuralist feminism, feminist ethnography, and critical race or woman of color feminism, or as first, second, and third wave feminism, states the course description. In addition, the course teaching for social justice is a required course for all social justice majors. Greg Margavicius, a student at Ohio Wesleyan University, told Campus Reform that the program isn't something he'd personally enjoy, but understands why some students may want to pursue it. I think that the wide breadth of student interest will result in some students wanting to study the subject, Margavicius said. Margavicius also added that while he does not believe the major will prepare students for some professions, he contends there is less of an emphasis on what a potential employee's major is. While it may not prepare students adequately for some professions, I think that a lot of employers are less concerned with a potential employee's major, and are more concerned with that student's work ethic and experience, Margavicius said, adding that students majoring in social justice could go to work for nonprofits. Campus Reform reached out to Ohio Wesleyan University, but did not receive a response in time for publication. In short, they're getting this bullshit down to a science. The only thing this could will cause is civil unrest, potentially very large scale. They're getting this bullshit down to a science. And I think what they're doing here is someone in our government and or in society may be trying to weaponize leftists and SJWs to even turn against moderate liberals and try to force the government to go all the way to straight communism. I mean, they give in to social justice goals all the time because the loudest minority always appears to be the majority. That's what they're counting on, I think. The louder you screech, the more the government might be willing to listen. So what, if we start screeching louder, we'll reveal ourselves to be the majority that we are? You know, reasonable people? Bottom line is, this is only going to cause problems. You read the article, the course sounds reasonable, and some of its ideas, even I think, sound kind of nice. But the thing is, we already have community organizers. We already have the ability to negotiate with each other. It's called being reasonable. Bottom line is, if you don't like capitalism, you don't want to live in the country, leave. Create a little gated community, file for autonomy, and live there in your own little colony. You know, away from the rest of us, because we don't want your social justice garbage. We don't want it. Fuck off. Moving on. Dr. Richard Gallagher. This is where I'm going to tell you, folks, today is a weird, crazy episode. There's going to be a lot of weird stuff. But no news is too extreme for me to report on. I'll take it with a grain of salt, and I will encourage you to take it with a grain of salt. But at the end of the day, nothing is too crazy to talk about. But anyway, Dr. Richard Gallagher, a renowned psychologist for more than 25 years, now saying that there is an epidemic of demonic possession. He is a highly respected and sought-after psychologist. So I really don't know what to do with this. Demonic possession can often be explained away by powerful drugs, hallucinogenics. Like, what happens to someone who takes L-Dopa? L-Dopa is a medication for Parkinson's. Well, what happens when you don't have Parkinson's is it temporarily alters your electrochemical balance, causing you to act out of whack. It temporarily changes your brain chemistry. If you take it enough, the effects can be permanent. Hypnosis can also do it. There's been demon possession scams involving hypnosis. Dementia, old people. Not to mention mass hysteria. A few people start acting a little weird, and then the idea that they're possessed by demons gets around, and people start freaking out, and that becomes a mass hysteria. Bottom line is, I've never heard of a supposed possession case that did not have a natural explanation that did in fact have at least 80 to 90% explanatory power. It covered pretty much everything. Bottom line is, my theory is that Dr. Gallagher could have a blind spot in his reasoning when it comes to Christianity. Like, when it comes to the belief in Christ and Jesus and demons, he may be less than reasonable. Like, he'd be reasonable in any other area but this. Because most Christians were raised to believe in that stuff since they were kids. They are very emotional and passionate about it. Right? So they might have a blind spot for the sake of nostalgia, or because they were, it's part of their worldview, and they don't want to, how do I put this? Make that worldview seem like it's not true. They don't want to negate it. They don't want to invalidate their worldview. And so they will allow a blind spot to appear in their reasoning, because they want to believe in it. And even a professional psychologist of 25 years could easily fall in the very same trap. He is, after all, a human being. but that is just my hypothesis. How the Vatican has been linking this to a loss in Christian faithful. I also have another hypothesis for that. Disillusionment. People often feel feelings of disillusionment towards religion. That's how paganism was ended in ancient Europe, a lot of it. A lot of it was violence, but also a lot of it was disillusionment. It happens. It happens to the best of us. Sometimes we get married to a worldview, and after a while, sometimes that worldview starts to feel silly or wrong. You feel like you've made a terrible mistake. You become disillusioned. And when your worldview collapses around you, when you lose faith in what you believe was right, you got two options. There's suicide, which some will take because they become depressed, or they find a friend to talk to and they develop a new worldview. They learn a new truth, a new fact. And that's what many are. In fact, the growth in neo-paganism in Europe is actually quite formidable. In fact, there's now, counting all denominations of neo-paganism, there's now just as many neo-pagans as there are Buddhists, counting all denominations. So, the loss in the Christian faithful is really just disillusionment. Demonic possession has nothing to do with it. I think a lot of it can be explained away as just a mass hysteria. I bet you anything that you look into this and it's going to hit all the check boxes for a mass hysteria. And that Dr. Gallagher has a blind spot when it comes to matters of the faith. A blind spot in his reasoning. Or for whatever reason, he just can't turn his head and see it for what it is, metaphorically speaking. Now, another crazy story. Earth's moon possibly hollow. Based on scientific analysis, the mantle seems thinner than the crust. A lot thinner. Which is contrary to most space bodies. But some of their conclusions are a little crazy. Alien base? An alien space station? Liquid core? A spaceship? A fucking egg, like on Doctor Who. Worst Doctor Who episode ever, I'm telling you. Worst ever. The inside of the moon is demonstrably less dense than Earth, as I had said previously. It seems like the questions in this universe never seem to end. They say the first question was why. No. The first question was not why. The first question was what. To understand why, we have to understand what. And we think we may have answered the question what, but have we really? Do we really know anything? Perhaps all that we know is that we know nothing. And maybe the hollow moon, my conclusion is that it's probably has a liquid core. Some sort of liquid core. They found helium isotopes on the moon. I suppose it's probably not liquid helium. It doesn't really have an atmosphere to create liquid helium. But it could be something else. It could be some other liquid substance, like methane, like on Titan. Because methane can exist as a liquid in very low temperatures and very minimal pressure. In some cases, depending on the amount. Otherwise, it would be a gas. Perhaps there's a possibility it could have a gaseous core. It could be gaseous. I mean, there's no rule that says that a planet can't have a core made out of pure gas that we know of. So it's entirely possible. It would just seem very unlikely. It makes more sense than an alien base or a spaceship. Of course, I will now freely admit that I do believe in the existence of the reticulans, and that we have been visited by the reticulans. The evidence in the Betty and Barney Hill case. You'd have to try real hard to convince me otherwise. And yes, I saw the Sagan thing. Sagan's proof against it was very questionable. In disproving Betty's star map, the only thing he actually proved was that star patterns are irrational. The shape of the universe in general is irrational. There's nothing rational about it. It's all chaos. So that doesn't prove anything. Just trust me, all right? Watch the documentary on it sometime. That's not the point. The point is, I think that the moon probably just has a liquid and/or gaseous core. But one thing we do know, that we seem to know for certain, one thing that we strongly indicated, is that for whatever reason the mantle is much thinner, demonstrably thinner, than the crust, which is highly unusual. It's usually the other way around. More space. Nancy Grace Roman, inventor of the Hubble telescope, died at 93 years old. 93. She made it a long time, folks. May you find eternal rest, Nancy Grace Roman. Or if you believe in reincarnation, may you come back as someone really just as awesome as you were in this life. Either way, Godspeed. A car in Tokyo, Japan, recently on New Year's morning, slammed into 8 pedestrians on New Year's morning. A 21-year-old man from Osaka. He did this deliberately, in fact, claiming it as revenge for capital punishment. Well, capital punishment for who? Just capital punishment in general? He changed his explanation a couple times, actually, to the point where I think it was kind of bullshit. I think it's actually linked to Japan's growth in clinical depression. See, depression causes 2 kinds of behaviors. It doesn't necessarily preclude suicide. Depression can also preclude homicide as well. I am actually one of those who starts to have homicidal thoughts when depressed. Some people do have those thoughts, but they don't necessarily act on it. It depends, sometimes it depends on the severity of the depression. In the case of this guy, he was probably beyond all hope, beyond all help. There are 8 pedestrians killed and 1 was hospitalized. And for our final story today, Facebook data mining through most popular Android apps, in spite GDPR laws which prevent it, demanding that you have to be able to opt out of data collection with like a selection. But even if you opt out of it, it doesn't actually work. They still data mine you. I'm pretty sure this is unconstitutional. You don't even have to have a Facebook account. Even popular apps like Duolingo, teaching people to become bilingual, can essentially data mine the crap out of you to make a sale profile so they can sell stuff to you. And also they sell that data to other countries too, to China primarily. This is most likely unconstitutional. It is a violation of our right to privacy. But they're going to do it anyway. You know, we need to realize at this point that America is dead. The country we live in today is not the America that it began out as. We have been in violation of the Constitution for so long that it is almost completely null and void. No one obeys it anymore. Certainly no one in power. Only the common citizens do. The Constitution is constantly being belittled, lessened in value, and ignored. America is all but dead. It's in its final death throes, as far as the Constitution is concerned. The spirit of America is dead. The spirit is dead, the body is broken, and the only way to save it is to resuscitate, to revive that spirit and bring it back from the brink. And we're not going to be able to do that so long as Facebook is data mining people, an American company, and then the Democrats are dirty and corrupt, and that the Republicans and conservatives are cowards who bring up a conservative position but then almost immediately back down because they don't want to be seen as a bad person. Perhaps we should begin to consider the idea that there are no good people or bad people, and they're just people. And that the only thing that really matters is whether or not those people actually are acting in the interest of the greater good. We should be less concerned with how we are perceived and more with just how we do. That's it for the culture shock today, folks. Have yourselves a great fucking New Year.